It's gonna make me look pretty much like the nerd I am to the or the dork or the reject from society that I am, which I'm kind of used to at this point. But basically, I wanted to stand up for people who live with their folks. Yes, as you might suspect, I live with my folks, and it's a much maligned lifestyle. And I think a lot of it depends on whether you're mooching off your folks or if you're contributing. And I like to think that I'm contributing. I am paying rent, so there's that. I'm not paying expensive rent. My folks aren't gonna, you know, aren't gonna be what are they called, slumlords or anything. So it's cheap rent, but not ridiculously cheap. It's in the realm of what I could find for a room somewhere, maybe in a less nice place. Um, but basically, I just wanted to address the whole, pressure to get your own place, have your own family. I think I've mentioned this in a previous video. It's really just about the pressure to be a consumer. And, you know, ideas should change about these things. We've come to a time in history where we clearly don't need more people, where we're using a lot of resources. And when you move to a new house and have children, there's a major uh, opportunity for companies to make money. So they make you feel like you're a failure if you don't do that. Because when you move, you need to buy the house, so you're giving money to the bank. For the mortgage or whatever, you're paying the bank money. You need to buy another car so you can get to the house you once came from and where you're going. You need your new furniture. You need home improvement costs. You need to pay for the new energy bill, and of course everything that the kids cost are a lot of money. And there's still no stigma against having too many kids, even though the more kids you have, the more resources you're using. And we're at a time that's unprecedented history where we really need to be considering our resource use, especially in California where we're running out of water. Another year, we're not going to have any water left. So basically, there's that part of it that it's really just a push. Society pushes you to move out for the sake of wanting to continue consumerism and infinite growth, which will prove to be a disaster sooner or later. Um, and then the other, I guess, sad part of it is that your parent, it's kind of a vicious cycle that you're sort of permeating when you move. And now, before I go into that, let me say that I understand why it's good to have your own place. Privacy helps to have privacy at all times. If when people get older, I think they have a harder time being aware of when people need privacy, or maybe they can't hear as well, so they don't know what's going on, or I don't know, maybe they just don't, aren't as fast, light on their feet, so they're not as aware of situations as they might be. But so yeah, privacy is a major issue. I certainly don't want to subject my parents to hearing me, getting it on or anything. And I'm sure they don't want to. But old people, they don't have to, they don't worry about as much about privacy because they're less sexually active, and mostly they just for them it's not as big of an issue for old people, but for younger people, and that's a big part of the reason why people move out. I understand that, but there are ways to have privacy even in a home setting, but because of the you could there's opposite ends of the house, obviously. There are certain signals you can give to other people in your house that you want to have privacy. Obviously, there's certain ways you can make that clear. But because of the stigma on it, you're not going to have a lot of luck bringing women back to your parents' house unless you're in high school. You're not going to be taken seriously by women if you say, well, come back to me to my place where my parents are, don't worry. Maybe some women will go for that, but they're in the minority probably, especially if you're older. The older you get, the harder it gets to do that kind of pull that kind of move. But So, saying that there is a reason to want your own place, but to me it seems like a kind of a waste of resources. There are ways around having to get your own place. There are ways you can maintain some amount of privacy. Um, mother-daughter units, or having, I don't know, obviously, maybe some space between the rooms or whatever. But anyway, the other sad thing about it is it's sort of a perpetuating cycle of sadness. You have kids, and those kids are expected to get out and start their own family. And once they get out and start their own family, they're busy with their own family. So it kind of guarantees that you, as a parent, when you become a grandparent, you might get to see your children and your kids here and there, but a lot of the time you're alone. A lot of old people are alone a lot of the time. And it's kind of sad, I mean, it's harder, a lot of, by the time you've gotten old, a lot of your friends may be dying, or maybe they're moved away, or maybe, you just, don't have the energy to be as social. And so I think a lot of older people don't, a lot of, they always say, oh, the mothers always say, oh, you never call to their sons. And, the kids, they come and visit whenever they can, but especially if you're one of the successful members of society, as defined by society in its current form, then you're going to be so busy with work and with your busy active social life and all those other things that you're not going to have that much time to hang out with your parents. And it's especially sad because when people get old, they retire and they have all this free time, but so little of that free time ends up being uh, time spent with their family. So it's kind of like, people are, when they get old, and this is just not just for your parents, but it'll be you eventually and your kids when they get old. You see what I'm saying here? This applies to the chain all the way through your lineage. And, you know, just at the time when you're retiring, you're done with the main focus of your life, your work is finished. And certainly at that point, I think you'd like to be able to spend as much time as possible with your family, but due to the nature of society, the demands, the responsibility placed on parents to work hard for their families and for their own self worth, there's not as much time for family members to spend together. Now, that's not to say that successful people don't get to spend time with their families. I'm sure. I mean, a lot. It kind of goes back to that movie with Adam Sandler. Click, which was a little silly, but still had a good message in it. Family should come first. I guess I just wonder how often family does come first. In a lot of situations, it probably does. I guess if you get rich early and then you can retire early, which is a small percentage of the population, but for those people who can do that, then I guess they can spend a lot of time with their family. But it seems to me like on the whole, this pressure to move out and get your own place and have your own things really comes more from a consumerist standpoint than anything else. And I guess it's just a shame that people are judged. We're at a time now where probably an unprecedented amount of people have to move in with their parents. And, I don't see, I mean, certainly they make it seem like you should be ashamed of it. I'm not particularly ashamed, It depends on how well you get along with your parents, too. I have a really good relationship with my parents, so we coexist pretty peacefully. We like each other's company. And, you know, that's not the case with everyone. Some people have different, just can't stand being under their parents' rules or roof or whatever. They can't live by they have to live by their own way only and not be able to consider anyone else. But I don't know, if you have a good relationship with your parents, I don't think there should be a stigma on living at home. Certainly privacy is an issue, but basically I'm just sort of making this for the point of it's not all as one-sided as society makes it seem. Sometimes it's nice to have your own place, but I think it's a good thing to do. As long as you are a contributing member of the household. I think I make my parents' lives better, and they tell me that I do, and they like having me around, and I have a hard time imagining. It's kind of sad for me to think of them being alone, and I guess it's given me. I haven't felt like I've had a lot of purpose in this life, but if I have any purpose at this point, it's that my parents, who I think were so kind to me and gave me so much in my life, now at least I can live out the purpose of being there as a companion and friend to them as they get older. And that's all I got to say about that.